Protesters demonstrating against Vladimir Putin in Moscow are facing extreme pressure from Russian authorities. We have Wall Street Journal's Moscow bureau chief Greg White. He is on the ground in Moscow at the protest site. We have him on the phone. Greg, tell us about these protesters and what they're angry about, just to set the stage.
Yeah, this is a continuation of the protest we saw that started after the elections back in December. And it's really people unhappy about what they see as falsified elections and Putin's monopoly on power here. They really want a greater say in how the country is run. And so far, the Kremlin hasn't been willing to give them very much.
Ralph, what's the development in terms of the police moving them from place to place in the city? Is this just are we just waiting for an eventual crackdown that's going to push them out of these public spaces altogether? Is that the anticipation?
That's what we've been watching for. It's been pretty hard to figure out. The Occupy phenomenon, which is common from New York and other cities in Europe, is really a new thing here in Russia and only emerged last week. So nobody quite knows what the authorities' response is going to be. They pushed them out of a park in central Moscow that they'd occupied last week, and last night the crowd stayed here overnight, but the police presence is still pretty heavy. So this is now a real test for how hard the Kremlin's going to crack down.
Can you tell us, Greg, what the protesters' goal is?
It's at the moment a really broad and mixed group of people, most of whom want clean elections, political competition, an end to what they say is semi-official censorship of the media, and an end to the political monopoly of Vladimir Putin.
Greg, can you tell us what is the broader support among the Russian population for this particular movement? Is the public very sympathetic, or they just see it as a nuisance?
It's tough to say. For the moment, this is concentrated to the capital and to a subset of the population here in Moscow, the sort of middle and upper middle class office workers, the iPad-toting crowd. And that hasn't spread into the countryside terribly much. There have been a few similar things in a couple of other cities. So it's hard to judge for sure because there isn't a whole lot of coverage of this in the state media here. And most of what coverage there is pretty negative. So it's difficult for people to form their own opinion about it. But so far, it does certainly seem to be a minority.